Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I haven't posted for a whole academic year. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Micah. I am now a second year medic. So firstly, I just want to sort of like explain why it's been so long since I posted. Long story short, I just really struggled trying to balance uni with work and my hobbies and some personal time, and YouTube just really wasn't a priority for me. But now that we're, done with the year, I figured I would make some more videos about how my first year went, which obviously wasn't sort of the plan, but anyway, before I actually even go into that, if anyone's wondering why I have stars on my face, I'm just breaking out right now. So I put on my pimple patches. They're called like the star face pimple patches, and they just cover up your pimples, so don't mind me. So today I'm going to talk about 5 pros and cons about going to King's for medicine. So in no particular order, let's start off with pros. So pro number 1 is that King's offers full body dissection. This was definitely one of my favourite parts about the course. We had dissection at least once a week, all of the first semester, and then most of second semester. And what that meant was that we would go into the lab, and in our tutor groups we had a cadaver assigned to us, and you had a demonstrator as well. So every single week it would be the same group, the same demonstrator, and you would basically make your way through the body in the sort of order that we would study it. So because of the way that dissection works, it was sort of like out to in. But I thought that dissection was really valuable in learning anatomy. There's really nothing else that was like dissection, like no textbook or online resource was as valuable as really seeing structures in the body the way that they look like in a human. So that was definitely like my favorite part of my course. Like, it was the highlight of my week. Second pro is that the campus looks really nice. I know this sounds really superficial, but the medical school is based on Guy's campus, and if you've been there, like it's a very nice getaway from sort of central London. The campus is at London Bridge, and once you sort of enter, it just becomes this whole like little secluded little world. There's like a grassy area in the middle of the campus, and the buildings look very like old and historic, and the inside of some of the buildings is like, it reminds me of Hogwarts a bit. And it's just, I think it's really pretty, and that for me is like a pro, because I used to go to Queen Mary and the campus was, it was alright, but it just looked a bit, like Mile End. Like, it almost motivates me to sort of keep working, keep studying, because you can really see the history at King's, and it's just that sort of environment where you're like, wow, like, it's such an amazing uni. King's also has the Gordon Museum in the Hodgkin building, and that's honestly my favourite place on campus. It's like a 3-level museum, which is exclusive to students on the campus. You can visit it sometimes, like if you're just a member of the public, but I think it's very limited hours. So yeah, so this museum is literally tucked away in this building, and it's just the perfect place to like study or to just get away from everything, and you really get this like historic vibe when you're in there. And it's got these like spiral staircases, which remind me of like the astronomy tower in Harry Potter. But yeah, like it's honestly like, it's amazing, and they have loads and loads of specimens, which is so rare, like real human specimens that you can look at, and then like it's just so cool that you can just like go there, go to the museum, or you can just go to the bottom floor and study. And again, like it's really motivating to be in that sort of environment, and I just think it's like this beautiful getaway, which is like very special for King's. Okay, number 3. There's clinical teaching in first year. So this was part of the new curriculum. I know King's didn't used to do this, but they're doing it now. It's a pro because I think it's nice to have that variety in, not just learning science. So we kind of like we have a lot of science lectures, but then sort of every other week we'll have a clinical skills lab, I guess, where they will sort of spend like 2 or so hours teaching us a key skill that we're going to need in the future. We only get tested on clinical skills in second year as part of our OSCEs. So I'm not really sure like whether or not it was effective because I haven't actually been assessed, but I think it was good in that it just sort of provided that variety in your schedule, and it was just nice to sort of like have that reminder every now and then about like, oh, like this is why we're doing medicine, it's not just learning about the sciences, and it just sort of like kept you a bit more motivated. And I think the facilities for clinical skills at King's is actually really amazing. Number 4 is that there are links to other hospitals. Saying this again, I haven't actually had my placement yet, but I know that King's is sort of has like the small group of hospitals where you can have your placement. So the main ones for my second year are Guy's and St Thomas. Then there's King's College Hospital, and there's one more. Where is it? It was really far away. Wait, let me Google it.
5 minutes later.
Lewisham. Okay, it sounds kind of far away, so I didn't get that one, so I don't really know. But those are the 3 main hospitals that you can be placed at for second year. And I think like it's good in that like they're pretty well like known hospitals, and I believe they're sort of big enough to be able to cater to teach us, hopefully in a good way. Pro number 5 is the location. The King's Medical School is, like I said, it's in London Bridge, so I think London Bridge is a really good location because it's really easy to get to from outside of London, from inside of London. It's got multiple sort of underground lines. So you've got the Jubilee line, you've got the Northern line. I personally take the Thameslink into uni, so that even that train goes directly to London Bridge. It's really good in that like if you do need to sort of get somewhere after campus, or you want to like meet up with friends, it's very easy to sort of get from another place back onto campus. Like it's very central. Obviously there has been events in the past, like the terrorist attack that happened a few years ago, but I think generally speaking, like in comparison to London as a whole, London Bridge is a pretty safe area. Like I don't really go to campus feeling endangered. If I compare that to Mile End when I was at Queen Mary, that was definitely a different vibe of like I would sort of feel scared to like walk around at night and to leave uni late and all that sort of stuff. And also it's literally just outside the station, like not even a minute walk. You literally get out of London Bridge, and as long as you take the Shard exit, it's right outside. So there's like, you're pretty much safe as soon as you're on campus, and you're pretty much on campus once you get out of the station. 5 cons about going to King's. Also guys, this is my own personal opinion. I don't represent anything else from this, like I'm just saying. I think King's is a great uni. Like obviously every uni you go to has cons, and this is just my own like opinion from my own personal experience. Con number 1. The admin still sucks. This has definitely been a well-known fact about King's, in that everywhere you go, if you read a forum, if you look at the university ranking, like student satisfaction at King's is quite low, and they have tried to address this, which I think is why they changed the course. But the admin is still really terrible, and I would always read about like, oh, the admin sucks, but like, what does that actually mean? And I never really, you know, understood what people meant by that, and I think that's probably why I was like, oh, it's no big deal. So I'm gonna tell you why the admin sucks. The admin sucks because it means everything that you try and do is just really disorganized. So lectures, so disorganized. Every other week or every 3 weeks, we have lecturers that don't show up. And it happens really often, and it's really bad. If you imagine that people, you know, some people commute in from like an hour and a half away or whatever, like I personally, like my commute's an hour and a half, and if you know, go in to sort of go to this lecture at 9 AM, and then the lectures are not, like, if they're not there, it's very disheartening. And like, you know, you could have slept. Our schedules are super busy, so like any free time we have is so like treasured, and it's just so frustrating when they get cancelled. The annoying thing is like, they sort of like, we just show up and then we just wait like 15 minutes, and eventually like people start to leave, and at some point everyone's like, okay, yeah, like the lecture's cancelled, and they have a way to like report the lectures being cancelled. or like lecturers just not showing up. But it still happens. Like, it was reported so many times in first semester, and honestly it just happens all the time, which is probably another reason why people just stop bothering to come to lectures, because the chances are it'll probably be cancelled. So yeah, that's one big admin thing. The second part of admin is our timetables. So as med students, our timetables are crazy, right? And every single day is packed, is literally packed, but then every single week is different. So unlike in my degree where my timetable will be very consistent every week, with med it's like every single week is different and every single day is different. So I literally just have to take it each day as it comes. The problem with that is the way we can access our timetables is also really terrible. I think, from what I know, most King students have an app that you can use to look at your timetable, and it will tell you your schedule for that day. We asked for this, but they said, oh, there's too many of you guys, so we actually can't make it for you. Which means the only way we can see our timetable is to go on a link, which takes like 5 clicks from when you sign on to like the student website. And then it's this horrible, like, it's not even a spreadsheet, it's kind of just columns, and like loads of columns, loads of rows, and it has the whole timetable for the whole year on like 15 pages. And we have to sort it by our sort of block of students, because the year is divided into 3 main blocks, which is like MA, MB, and MC. And within those big blocks, you've got like MAO1, MAO2, MAO3, and it's just like loads and loads of different groups. So I'm MAO4, which meant I had to go into this timetable, search, like filter it by MAO4 to see my own personal timetable, and then click on whatever page I needed to get to the right date. So if it was like March or April, it would be like on like the 3rd page, and it was just this constant, like, you had to keep signing on to the timetable, and then like looking at the exact date, and then trying to find the date, and then looking at like make sure that it was filtered, because otherwise you're gonna get like duplicates of every single event and you don't know which one you're going to, and blah 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 blah. So we were able to export this timetable into our calendars. So, you know, we all did that at the beginning of the year because that would make sense. But what did they do? They had to tell us that actually the timetable is not finalized. So it meant that we would literally export the timetable into our calendars, which was, you know, so much easier than logging on to the system. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, but it's changed. But they wouldn't actually tell anyone it had changed. So it was like, it would literally, one row would just change. No one would know, and, you know, everyone would have like the old timetable on their phones. And then it would literally just became a habit of asking your peers, like, guys, like, is this really tomorrow at, like, at 1 PM? Like, are you sure? Which meant that you had to basically cross-check it with other people, and then the timetable again, like, live. So it was just this constant checking of the timetable all the time, and it was just so annoying. Like, it was so difficult to just see like what we were doing. So yeah, that's pet peeve number 1. Anyway, okay. Con number 2 is that the campus is really small. I love the campus, it's beautiful, loads of hidden places to study. The problem is, it's just too small. And with the number of students that you get, like, coming in and out of campus, there is not enough space for anything, like literally anything. So in my year, there's what, like 400 of us, which means in the next year, like in the year above, there's another 400 and another 400, and, you know, like plus minus a few because whatever, like whatever reasons. But that's a lot of people, and that's just med. On guys, there's most of the sciences as well. I think all of the sciences, and like there's nowhere for you to just sort of chill, ever. So the library is like tiny. It's always packed, and it's really hard to find a seat in the library. If you go to any other sort of like location to study, that's also very difficult because, you know, 8 out of 10 times it will already be occupied. This is also a problem when you try and eat food. So there's really nowhere to sort of eat apart from the shed, which is like just above Guy's Bar. So like Guy's Bar is like 1 level, and then above it is the shed. But honestly, it only seats a few people, like maybe 200, maybe less than that. And it's not enough space. So what me and my friends sort of normally did was we would just go into classrooms in the Hodgkin building and just eat there, or just study there. We would literally do both, because there was never enough space. But if you imagine, like, you know, you've got like a busy day and you've commuted to uni or whatever, then it's very like tiring to just try and find somewhere to eat and to find somewhere to just do some work, and it's very difficult to just be efficient with your time. And it's particularly difficult if you're trying to save money and eat, you know, from home and like bring your own food. Like, yeah, here's a microwave, but like no seats. And England's very cold, so it's quite difficult, like especially if it's raining or if it's like really, really cold, like where else can you go? So that's definitely like a really big problem with King's, is that like it's a great campus honestly, but it's just too small. And we've given them this feedback and I don't really know what they're doing with it, but I hope they try and increase like capacity of places, because it's really annoying to just like get all the way to uni, and then especially if you have like a really long gap in between, but then you spend like half an hour trying to just sit down somewhere. Number 3, the clinical teaching is really brief. So I'm saying this sort of because I haven't actually been assessed on my clinical skills yet, but it's very much like a one-time thing and they just sort of expect you to remember it. So say we had like blood pressure once, it was taught to us one time, for about 2 hours, and then weeks later, like it must have been at least a few weeks, if not a month, it was like, oh guys, we're gonna have an assessment now. And it wasn't really for the skill of blood pressure, it was more for like the skill of being able to talk to a patient. But we had to do blood pressure in front of our like group, and we were all just like, we haven't done this since like a month ago, so what do you mean? Just like, it was very much the sort of attitude of like, we're gonna teach you something and then you're gonna remember it for the rest of the year. And it was just like, what? And they always say like, oh well, you can go into the lab and like you can practice it on your own, but I think like, you know, given our schedules, it was hard enough to find time just to like study, let alone go to the lab and practice. But I'm not really sure if they're gonna reteach this in second year. Like maybe they will. If they will, thank God. If not, like I'm sure we'll figure it out. And they've left loads of like online videos for you to watch, but it was very much like, learn it once, that's it. Number 4, there's too many people in med. Kind of building on from my previous point, there's like 400 of us in med, and you know, it's great because there's loads of us and we can, you know, get to know everyone and whatever. But I think with the capacity of the uni and the way that things are sort of taught, there are actually so many people, and this is also detrimental when you have your personal tutors, because there's just so many. In med, your tutors are always going to have like multiple people from each academic year, which kind of just means that you become like just another ant essentially in the grand scheme of things. I think it's very easy to sort of be forgotten about and to feel like, you know, like I'm here but like no one would really know if I wasn't here. It can feel very lonely, I guess, because there's so many of you that you don't ever get to know everyone, and yeah, like it's a lot to sort of take in, and it doesn't really feel like, when I was at Queen Mary, I really felt like I knew my colleagues, I knew my peers, and I felt very like comfortable in my lectures and stuff. But I think at med, because there's just so many people, it's not possible. And I think just the attitude of getting to know people isn't really there. Like people don't bother getting to know you because there's too many of you, and chances are you probably won't see them again next year. So it's just very much like, oh, like yeah, we'll study together and do this, but I think it's harder to sort of like build stronger friendships unless maybe you live with people. But yeah, like it can feel very lonely. Number 5 is that King's is really expensive. This is for any London uni in general, but London Bridge is a very expensive area, and if like me you don't really like to carry a lot of stuff with you when you go to uni, it's very easy to sort of like just buy food out. But if you do that every single day, it can become very pricey. Like there's a Tesco nearby, there's also a Sainsbury's, but apart from that, everything else in the area is like London standard priciness. And I think in the moment of like, you know, when you're hungry in the moment, it's very easy to be like, oh, like yeah, I'm just gonna buy this lunch, you know, from Wasabi, and that's like £7 down the drain. So like I wish there were sort of more options to to get things cheap. Like in my land we had like a chicken shop, and I just wish there was a chicken shop or something, but I guess it's London Bridge, so it doesn't really work like that. But yeah, like if there were more sort of cheap food options, like even campus food is pretty expensive unless you go to the cafeteria, but then like it tastes a bit weird. So anyway, so extra con, which I forgot about, so it's a bit like 6 cons. Guys, I don't want to scare you, right? But I'm trying to be really real here. There are mice on campus. And I'm not joking. There is an Instagram dedicated to these mice. It's called Mice of KCL. I'm gonna put the link in my description, but I have personally seen these mice, okay? And, you know, not really a big deal. There's sort of mice everywhere. But there's a fair few on King's, and this is only guys campus. I haven't even seen the ones like on other campuses, but because the buildings are so old and there's so many levels and people are kind of gross, like they'll just leave snacks and like leave, you know, like food wrappings around when they're done studying. There are just mice. Like it's not this whole like, oh my god, there's like a mouse. It's more like at night when it's emptier, and I study at night a lot, and I just sort of stay on campus to study. But I remember I was walking through the corridor of Hodgkin building, and it was like, it was like really narrow corridors, and I was going to the toilet because I was studying, and there was just a mouse, and I was just stuck in this corridor because I was like, I don't really want to go near it. I think it ran away. I think it ran into the computer room. And yeah, like you just see them from time to time, but they're there. And I mean, they're kind of cute, but if you're scared of mice, like just to let you know, the mice can appear sometimes. Not that big of a deal. Like I'm sure other campuses also, sorry, other unis also have mice, but I'm just saying there are also mice at King's. If you like mice, it's great, you know, like Cinderella made friends with mice. But if you are really scared of mice, just to be aware of. But yeah, I think that probably concludes my 5 pros and cons about King's. There's definitely a lot more to talk about in terms of experience, but I'll try and make like a separate video about that. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I am very free to answer them right now, so I will do my very best to answer those for you. And yeah, stay tuned because I really plan on making a lot more videos during this summer. Obviously, like we've just come out of lockdown and the world is starting to get back into normal. I'm going back to my job now, but because of coronavirus, like they've changed our schedules, so it means that we can only like I only go in like certain days, so I'm still free. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and hopefully see you in my next video. Bye guys!